Yes, there will always be language barriers in certain communities, but I think overall it's trying to get that message across, and the way to get that message across is look at some of the case studies, look at some of the success stories, and when you start getting role models within the BME community, that's when I think people will start understanding. Amir Khan, you said the boxer just now, but yeah, once you do get some role models within the community, then people will start looking at this as a program for them to develop themselves.
Okay. We're just going to take a short break and then we'll come back. We've got lots more questions for you.
Okay.
Skills are vital to growth and to the future economy of this country, and there could not be a greater commitment from government to skills first, but also promoting apprenticeships and driving them. We've had huge increases in apprenticeship funding in the last 18 months.
I've always had a passion for creating things and timber and stuff like that, so I decided after school that's what I wanted to do, and I decided that carpentry was for me. A lot of my friends are at uni and do down the academic route. Some of them wish now that they'd done an apprenticeship, seeing what I've done and what I've achieved, and seeing that there is another route available.
First time I met Joe was when he applied for a job within our company. It was the time we weren't going to take an apprentice that year, but due to Joe's enthusiasm and his portfolio he sent with his application for the job, we decided to.
Welcome back to the show. I'm going to pass it on to Mavish, who's got some questions for Shafqat. Go on, Mavish.
Okay, so my question is, what are you doing for employers?
Okay, at the moment, some of the employers locally, which I'm working with, I talked to you earlier about Aldi, as they're one of my key accounts. I'm also working with the local authorities. Now, the local authority in Oldham, I'm also working with the local authority in Rochdale. Now, at the moment in Oldham itself, in 2013-2014, they are creating 2,000 new jobs within Oldham itself. Within Rochdale, within the local authority, there are quite a number of cost-saving exercises taking place, and they will be looking at a possibility of developments within apprenticeships and other areas of work. We don't know what's actually going to happen with Rochdale at the moment. But with some of the other employers, I'm working with quite a large organisation called LBM, which is based in Rochdale, and they recruit quite a lot with apprenticeships as well. These are some of the large organisations I work with as key accounts. They're my key accounts, and basically what I try and do is to try and ensure that we bring as many apprenticeships on board as much as possible. That's what we're trying to do. As far as long-term strategy is concerned, I talked to you about the priority, which is 16 to 18-year-olds. So that's our major priority at the moment. The other thing, what we're trying to do with the smaller businesses is we have got an age grant available, which is basically an incentive to try and get SMEs involved in what apprenticeships are about. There is an incentive of £1,500, which we are passing on to SMEs, and they can take up to 10 apprentices per organisation. And basically, it's for them to understand what apprenticeships are about. So they will get that £1,500, and that'll go towards the person that they recruit as an apprentice. So there is quite a lot of things that we're currently doing with employers, and my remit is working with employers, which is what I'm trying to do at the moment, to try and encourage more employers to find out what apprenticeships are about and what we can offer them as organisations.
So, you've mentioned the wage subsidy. Is that just for the 16 to 18-year-olds, or do you offer that wage subsidy to employers for 19 to 24 as well?
Yeah, that includes 19 to 24 as well.
Okay, and it's the same, the amount stays the same?
Yes, yeah, it's £1,500 per employer.
Okay, and I heard there's a new initiative starting for businesses based in Greater Manchester.
Yep.
So you could get an extra.
Yeah, that you can get another extra £750. That's the GM scheme. So that's another extra £750 available. But there are other areas that you need to look at for that. For example, they have to be NEET, which is not in education employment training, which is slightly different to the one that we offer. Ours is the standard one throughout the whole of the country.
Right. And we were speaking to an employer just early this week who mentioned that, as a small employer, they find it hard to take on, the wage subsidy is there, which is great, fantastic. But they want to be able to claim that initially to help that cash flow, or, have staggered payments, or, paid in a different way instead of being paid after 6 months or whatever the time period is, just to help the, small businesses in particular to improve that cash flow when they're employing somebody. Because obviously this is supposed to go towards the wages.
I think originally they were given the payment of £750 after the first 13 weeks, and then at the end of the apprenticeship programme. Now they are able to pay the £1,500 after 13 weeks. So that has changed from the previous one you discussed. So the employer was probably talking about the previous one. So they are able to do that for 13 weeks, after 13 weeks.
Excuse me. Why does the government emphasise more on the 16 to 18? Sorry, the 16 to 24-year-olds in comparison to 24 plus.
Yeah, that's where the priority is for us as an organisation. And the reason why it is because there are a lot of people in that particular age range who we don't know what they're doing. So they might be not in education, employment training. They're not going to university, not going to college. They're not working, and it's them what we're trying to capture and trying to engage, because they're our future of this country. And then when you're looking at 25 plus, don't forget apprenticeships you are able to do that within the organisation. So you have got individuals working within organisations at the moment who can do an apprenticeship programme. If they are 25 plus, there's no issue with that. They are able to do the apprenticeship programme if the employer pays for that. So the emphasis is 16 to 24.
If there's a young person who wants to join the apprenticeship programme, there's a young person we were speaking to last week, and he complained that he wanted to join, and he called up a college to get advice and guidance on the program, but then he was asked to go and find a vacancy himself before he can join the program. The college is not there, or any training providers are not there to support the recruitment.
Yeah, the way it works is that person would have to apply for a particular job itself, so he would have to apply through the employer. Once he has applied through the employer, then what happens is the training provider will then either work with the employer to shortlist the applicant, and then the person will then start the apprenticeship program through the training provider.
But aren't you asking a 16-year-old to do too much, to go out and find themselves a job as well as then link up with a college and then... Yeah,
that is our job, linking up the college and the training provider element to it. What we do request is for that individual to be able to speak to the connections advisors, speak to anybody at the school, teachers, etc., so they can give them a bit of a foundation before they start applying. So it's going back to schools again, which I said earlier that we need to do quite a lot of work with schools to try and encourage apprenticeship. So I think that's where, to answer that question, that's where we need to focus at. So once the young person then applies, then they go through the process of the interview, they start the program, and they start the apprenticeship.
Mm-hmm. I think the point that was highlighted by a number of employees was that if they've contacted a training provider, for example, to say, we want to take on 2 or 3 apprentices, and they were being introduced to young people who were interested in the vacancy, but the employers found them not ready at all to start, on the job. They didn't even have basic understanding or training as to how they should behave in a work environment, just basics really. Is there anything that you're doing to get these young people ready who are interested in apprentices?
Yeah, first and foremost, just to answer your question, the employer should go onto our website, www.apprenticeships.org.uk.
Mm-hmm.
There you've got a section of what employers should do. They can contact us through that particular website. We've got a small business team that will then contact them, and basically what the small business team will do is speak to them at what apprenticeships are about, what we offer. Then after that, it's up to the small business team to then offer a number of training providers to that particular employer.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's up to the employer to then choose which training provider they want to go to. So rather than the employer going straight to the training provider, they need to use us as a service. So because we're completely impartial. Once that then has been established, once the employer has chosen their training provider, then they can go ahead within that. When you're saying to me about job ready, 16 to 18-year-olds, yes, there is a gap there for knowledge about the job market itself. Traineeships are going to be introduced by the end of this year. We're still going through this consultation period about what traineeships are about, but more than likely the traineeships will cover that gap for that young person, and to look at what they are potentially able to do for the future.
On what basis does the employer choose the training providers, and what do the different training providers offer?
Okay, what happens is the small business team will offer, like I said to you earlier, 3 training providers. They'll give them the success rates on what they've got for apprenticeship programs, and also they'll tell them about the location where they are, whether it's convenient for them. So they will basically give them an overall guidance about the training provider. Then it's up to the employer then to choose the appropriate training provider. The employer will choose them themselves. So we will only give them that element of help and guidance for them to choose that particular training provider. So the employer will choose themselves.
Okay. Do you not think that the system at the moment is, it can be quite complicated for employers as well as young people, and are there any plans to make it a little bit more simpler?
Well, we would say it's a simple system anyway, but I think on the whole, if there is like for example, if an employer wants to take on an apprentice, if they go on to our website, it's a really good information guide for the employer. It gives them a good rundown of exactly what's required from them as an employer. And also, if they want to speak to any of our team, which they will at some point, then we will give them an overview of what apprenticeships are about, and uncomplicated, as uncomplicated as possible as well. So, but because there are so many different programs out there, then yes, I understand employers do get confused, and especially with SMEs, because SMEs have been inundated with programs lately.
Yeah.
As well.
I think we get that a lot of complaint from some employers who get bombarded by information all the time, and they're not sure what to do or where to go next. We'll touch on how the apprenticeship itself work for a young person. What about the duration of apprenticeships?
Okay, the intermediate one, which is the level 2, that is a minimum of 12 months duration. So it has to be a minimum of 12 months. The advanced apprenticeship It's up to 18 months, and the higher apprenticeships 24 months and over. So that's how it basically works.